Firstly, we would like to welcome Mr. Robin from Atelier Wen. Welcome to Dubai. Is this your first time visiting Dubai?
It's my second time, but it still feels very new to me because I've only spent like a couple of days here. This time it's very hot. Definitely not the kind of weather I'm used to, but it's always super interesting to come to Dubai. So thanks so much for welcoming me.
You and your partner have co-founded the brand in 2018.
Yes.
What made you come to that decision, knowing that starting a new brand is an extremely tough project to start?
Yeah. So you know what? The funny thing is that it's never really a decision that we consciously took. So when we started thinking about Atelier Wen, we were both still in university. We were in our last year of bachelor, but initially it was more like a kind of thought experiment. You know, we were bored because we did a year abroad and all our friends had not done a year abroad, so they had all graduated, and we were just killing time thinking about businesses we could do together, but they were like very little concrete steps. We were just thinking. And then my co-founder moved to China for his master's. I stayed in the UK, and we were like, you know what, let's push a bit our ideas further, but still let's just go with the flow. Let's do it for fun. Let's not have any hopes or plans. So we're like, okay, let's do designs. And well, I knew some designers, so we did designs. And then we're like, let's do prototypes. I knew suppliers, so we could do prototypes for almost no money. And then by the time we graduated from school, like we had working prototypes, but none of us wanted to do that as a business. You know, I wanted to work in consulting, he wanted to work in tech. But we were like, hey, you know, we have prototypes, why don't we just put them on Kickstarter? It's free. And we did it, and then, well, we sold the watches. So suddenly, even though it was not our plan, we're like, okay, well, we've sold watches, now we need to make watches because we took those people money, so let's get to work. And that's really how it became a job. But we had never had this thinking that, oh, okay, like we're going to be doing that. Yeah, that's how it happened, really.
Both of you and your partner are from French origin.
Yes.
But you created a brand, high-end watch brand that's actually Chinese. Wouldn't it have been easier for you to do a French brand instead?
So I definitely think it would have been easier. But the thing is that for both Wilfried, my co-founder, and myself, what's really meaningful to us is Chinese watchmaking, Chinese culture, Chinese craftsmanship. For my own personal story, you know, I've been collecting watches since I'm a kid, but really when I was a kid, I didn't have the money to collect. I mean, you know, kids, they hardly can buy watches. So I was buying vintage Chinese mechanical watches, which are very inexpensive. You can get some for, back then, you know, for like 50 Chinese yuan, so which is like maybe 6-7 euros, you could get a decent one. And I bought a lot of those watches. At some point, I think I had one of the largest collections of those watches outside of China. And that really became my passion. I know it's a weird hobby, but that was really the thing I like doing most in life. I was buying those old Chinese watches I felt very, very strongly about. And one day when I was studying, I got the opportunity to go to Peking University and to meet the head of the Chinese Chamber of Watchmaking, who then became my mentor. And this is really when my passion took a step further, because I went from being like a customer, like a guy buying watches, to suddenly having this kind of very unique inside of you, because he took me to visit all the movement makers, the independent watchmakers, the artisans, the dial makers and whatnot. And there I could really notice the passion of the people. You know, you would meet watchmakers who've been doing this job for decades and who would live and breathe that. You would meet enamel masters whose family have been doing this maybe for 5 centuries. And I was like, this is incredible, the amount of passion, the amount of heritage, is so, I really thought it was crazy because it's so different from like the images people would have around China. So I had this strong taste about the product, but then when I saw this passion and heritage aspect, I thought, well, this is really something I want to share with the world, because when you tell people about made in China, they really don't know about this, you know. And back then, back in 2018, they had very negative opinions about made in China. They would think it's all cheap, it's all made by children in factories, or so some nonsensical thoughts like those. And I thought, you know what, this is so far away from what I could witness when I was in the country. So I have this strong urge in myself to really show that. And this is why, even though it would have been easier to make French watches because I'm French and because Wilfried is French as well, I felt, okay, you know, this is my mission, this is my calling. I love those products, and this aspect that I saw, I need to do it justice. I need to have people know. And Wilfried, even though at the beginning he was not into watches at all, he was born and raised in Hong Kong, and he lived all his life between Hong Kong and Beijing. And he also felt strongly about Chinese culture because he was really into it, and he couldn't really stand the fact that when you would ask people about Chinese culture, they say, oh, there's no culture there, all they do is copy. And it's so far away from the truth. So he also felt this calling, this mission to show people the richness, the depth of the Chinese culture, because he cared about it, and he thought it's such a shame, you know, it's something so beautiful, but people don't know about that. They are missing out, and that's why we both decided to go on this venture.
Your first watch, which was based on the porcelain,
yes,
sold out, of course, but the height of fame for the brand is with the watch perception.
Yes.
What made it unique is pretty much the dial, which is hand-rotated guilloche that's done by Master Sheng.
Yep.
How did you meet Master Sheng, and how did that collaboration start, and will that collaboration stop, or he will only work with the perception line only, or will it be with future lines?
So how we met Master Sheng is a pretty funny story. So when we were developing perception, at the beginning we were not planning on doing real handmade guilloche, because we didn't know it existed in China. So we wanted to do a CNC guilloche dials, because we thought, well, you know what, it's better than stamped patterns because you still have a lot of depth, and from a visual standpoint it's quite interesting. And back then we believed that the main appeal of the watch would be more like the case, the bracelet, the finishing on the metal, all this kind of work. But in 2019, 2020, it was quite hard to find someone who could do CNC guilloche in China. Nowadays it's very easy, but back then very few were doing it. And we were struggling to find someone who could do it. And there is this sort of like group of collectors in Beijing, like this kind of association of collectors, and they are very knowledgeable about who does what in the industry. And we asked their president, someone named Chong Wei, David Chong, to recommend us, well, for a supplier who could do CNC guilloche. And he sort of laughed at us. He was like, you know what, CNC guilloche, this is not the real thing, because I know the only guy in China who could do real rose engine guilloche. And then we were like, wow, we didn't know this existed. So we asked him to put us in touch, and he put us in touch. But when we first sent a message to Master Sheng, you know, we told Master Sheng, hey, we'd like to work with you. We'll order this many dials, we'll pay you this much, we'll do a lot of work to put your names out there, because what you do is really cool. And Master Sheng thought we were a scam, so he blocked us from like all messaging apps, because you know, it's very dubious, because he's like, what, these French people, like it's a scam, like I'm not gonna respond to you. So we needed to have our friends to intervene again, to say, no, those guys are legit. And then like we started chatting with Master Sheng. We had a very long process to adapt his guilloche to watch dials, because he was mainly doing balls, pen, lighters, and he had never done a watch dial. There was a lot of friction between him and our other suppliers, because our other suppliers are more traditional industrial watchmaking suppliers. So, you know, they work with insanely tight tolerances, very, very high level of precision. And Sheng, he does everything by the eye. So at the beginning, like the guys who were, for instance, doing watch assembly were like, no, this cannot work. You know, here we have 10 micron more. We cannot assemble the watch. So it was a very long process so that we can align everyone's tolerances then for the watch to work. But eventually it worked out, and that's how we really got Master Sheng to be a part of perception. Now, will we use Master Shank's guilloche dials on other watches? That could very well be a possibility. I think the point is that the brand Atelier Wen is not just about guilloche, it's about Chinese craftsmanship and Chinese culture. So we want to also work with other master craftsmen from China, enamelers, lacquer masters, marquetry masters, and the depth of the craftsmanship heritage is really, really huge, but we don't want to stop working with Master Cheng because he's such an amazing craftsman. He's doing a truly incredible job. We also feel compelled, to support his mission, because what we like about him is the fact that he's not just there to make guilloche dials. He's there because he wants to create a generation of guilloche craftsmen in China. He wants to go from himself, the only person doing it, to maybe in 10 years having 100 guilloche masters in China. And we love this vision because there's this strong sense of wanting to develop the field and to sort of like revitalize it. And I mean, you have a look at guilloche on a global end, it's something that is diminishing. There's less and less guilloche masters. There's automations, there's CNC, there's like stamping. It's disappearing. But this person wants to do the exact opposite. He wants to reinstate it. So we are compelled to also support that over the long run and not just be like, oh, we're ordering you these dials and then goodbye. No, we want to be there to support this effort because we agree with it. It's aligned with our mission. So it may very well be the case that we reuse his guilloche dials on other series, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.